We'll be actually having her town hall at 6:30, I believe, 6:30 to 7:30.
6:30 to 7:30. The Phoenix Ballroom at 710 Garfield Street in the Laramie Plains Civic Center. That's the location.
I can't remember the number of the room. Do you remember the number of the room?
I don't remember the number, but we are Studio 255, and it's just around the corner
Around the corner on the second floor.
On the second floor.
So the other part of our community event tomorrow is we will be having a collection of like-minded individuals gather at the courthouse at 4 p.m. We will gather there collectively around 4:30 in that area. We will gather at the courthouse and march over to the Civic Center. And we will be having a bit of a peaceful rally, if you'd like to say, on the south side of the Civic Center. We have part of the street reserved. We got a permit for that. We have insurance for the event, but as long as everybody's peaceful, we won't have to use our insurance. You're going to hear me say peaceful gathering over and over, and there's a reason why I do that. If you've paid any attention to any of the town halls around the nation, or even just recently in the state of Wyoming, I'll bring up Rock Springs, they had a raucous town hall over there the other day, and that does make great YouTube videos and great Facebook posts, but unfortunately it does not get our questions asked. And when everybody is creating chaos, any of the answers...
Wastes time, doesn't it,
It wastes time. We don't get to hear what our representative has to say. And it is very important to me as the AC Democratic Chair, Albany County Democratic Chair, that we are allowed to ask our questions and get answers. I think it's very important that Representative Hageman knows what her constituents are thinking, and we need to hear her answers so we know what she's thinking. And if we don't tell her what we're thinking, she's not going to know, and she's going to go back to D.C. and do whatever the heck she wants anyway. I would like to...
Don't confuse the message. Clear your mind, ask your questions, write them down, organize, and get as many... Are we better for 50 questions asked and 50 questions answered, or are we better for 5 and a lot of YouTube video footage that doesn't do anybody
that'll
any
get
good?
you clicks, but it won't advance the agenda.
Right,
it won't have
right.
positive results for our state.
Yeah,
and
we're
our
not
nation.
looking for sound bites. We're looking for
I'm
real
not.
life.
I'm
real
looking
life
for
solutions.
answers for questions,
Yeah.
and I hope your audience and all of my friends that gather tomorrow, because again, it's the gathering for good, a peaceful collection of like-minded individuals. We only have an hour, and that's another reason we need to be concise with our questions, present them respectfully with decorum, and listen to the answers. We will have plenty times in the future to get together, scream and yell if that's what we need to do to, relieve anxiety. I know there's a lot of anxiety in our community, as there is nationwide. But this is a process, and I'm hoping that this will serve as an example. And I do want to give some respect to Representative Hageman. I might get in trouble with a few of my Democratic friends, but she at least has the courage to come to the community and listen to her constituents. Have we seen John Barrasso? No. Have we seen Cynthia Loomis? No. If we have a peaceful gathering, maybe they will be inspired to come and talk to us. I would really, really love to have more of these events going forward where constituents can ask questions and get them answered. And this brings up another point. With the various hats that I wear, the PVA being one of them, the PVA last year had a candidates night. And we invited all of the candidates that were on the ballot to come and talk, as well as various other organizations in our community. The League of Women Voters. I know this particular radio station invited all the candidates to come in and talk. Quite a few candidates did not take advantage of those opportunities. They did not come and talk to the PVA at candidates night and tell the constituents why they were running, what they believed in. They did not go to the League of Women Voters Forum. They did not come into your radio station. They did not respond to a lot of media requests for interviews. And we have to ask ourselves as voters, no matter what letter we have behind our voter affiliation, if a person running for office or one that does get elected doesn't want to talk to you, who these people represent. They represent us. Never forget that. They work for us. We don't work for them. So if they won't come talk to us, do they really represent us? Do they repeat what we're thinking? Are they our voice? I doubt that. We need more elected officials talking to us.
I don't know where I picked this up, but years back, and it is still relevant today. You ask somebody to go out. You ask them for an interview. Well, they can't do the time and day that you invited them. But if they truly want that opportunity with you, they'll suggest a time that works for them. And when they don't do so, what message do you take from that as the person that extends the invitation? You tend to think that they're not interested.
Well, as a member of the PVA board, when we invited people and they didn't show up, they didn't care to have their voice heard by their constituents. That for whatever reason, I get it. Sometimes there is a conflict. I do get it that people can be busy. But these events, whether it's the League of Women Voters or the PVA, are announced many, many, many weeks in advance, and months sometimes. And these are coming up. So it's a dodge, in my opinion. They don't really want to tell you what their values are. They don't really want to talk to you. You have been gracious enough at the last minute to allow me to come into the studio and talk. And I know when I ran for commissioner a few years back in 2022, you gave me the opportunity to come in and talk, and I was really grateful for that. Those are the opportunities, if you're running for office, you can't miss. This is how you get your message out. And I appreciate you, when I ran, allowing me that opportunity. And I will advise anybody that is thinking about running for office, take advantage of all of these opportunities. Answer the questionnaires, go to the forums, take advantage of the opportunity to talk to your constituents, because that's why you're really running for office, is to represent the people in your community.
When you talk about transparency and wanting business growth, and you talk about the key platform planks in your mind, in your vision for elected office, walk your talk.
Yeah, be consistent. Be true to yourself and be true to your community. And
What are
don't
some-
be afraid to talk to the voters.
What are
'cause
some
you
of
work
the
for them.
what are some of the key topics that you expect Representative Hageman to need to know about from Albany County, Klaus?
Well, I think we're going to have a lot of different topics. Unfortunately, we're probably not going to be able to touch on a lot of them. But healthcare, that's got to be a big thing. Why are they looking at cutting Medicare and Medicaid? Why are they looking at cutting benefits for veterans? Veterans have a heck of a time getting health care and getting it in a timely fashion. I can't tell you how many horror stories I hear about that.
I remember Mike Selmer running for candidacy for Senate in 2024, just this last electoral season, and I spoke with Mike about continuous glucose monitors. There's no reason for these items to be pharmacy required. These tools they're great management tools for weight management. They're great for knowing your sugar levels, tells you so much about what's going on. But you have to get a medical visit, you have to get a prescription, and you can't do this. And what does that do to cost? It drives it up, and it makes it unaffordable. We talk about affordable this, affordable that. Well, unless you get to the real nuts and bolts of the problem, we're allowing so many things to get so blown up, so out of focus, that we really don't have a manageable problem because we don't get to the point. And I want everybody to go to that 1 hour with Harriet Hageman and know that she's going to answer every question that's asked. But if you only have 5 questions and not 50, and you don't let her speak, if you interrupt her, you didn't go to listen. So go to listen.
This is true. Think about this. If we behave ourselves at this town hall meeting and we're not screaming and yelling and booing and going, you lied, and just being a raucous, uncontrollable group, what kind of message does that say? If we were, on the rare occasion that people like me would actually agree with something that she says, if we were just to clap, and then if we disagree with something she says, nothing, silence, do you think that message is going to go through resoundingly? Do you think she's going to hear the quiet and that's going to resonate with her?
I want the listeners, I want the audience to think about another thing. We mentioned that tomorrow night we'll have 6:30 to 7:30 with Harriet Hageman. First and foremost, that's probably an understatement. We're probably going to have time, a little bit of time before, and we'll have a little bit of time after. But we definitely have an hour. Now, Albany County has an opportunity to be a leader in Wyoming. We have an opportunity to unite Wyoming with information. If we ask our 50 questions, and 22 other counties in Wyoming ask theirs, of this one elected official who's coming to us, to our town, and holding that opportunity for us to ask our questions, to organize and to be diligent and deliberate in that communication back and forth, to and fro. She's tangible. She's probably going to run, she's probably going to run again for Congress, or maybe she seeks the governor's office. There's talk of that consideration. How we set the relationship with Albany County for Harriet Hageman, I think, sets a tone for all of Wyoming. We have an opportunity to inform. Instead of, when I watch Sweetwater County's video for their town hall with Congresswoman Hageman, we missed a huge opportunity to all share that social media platform and be informed by that, so that in Albany County we didn't need to ask those questions that were asked in Sweetwater County. We already had the answer from that town hall.
Yeah.
We might follow up on it, but we might do better to expand and go from healthcare to education, or to border control, or to some other aspect that concerns us, gun control, you name it, whatever it might be. Think about it. She's investing 23 hours in travel time and these things, because obviously she cares. Obviously she's got motivation. I'm not an advocate for or against Harriet Hageman in the talk shop platform, but I would say that bears some respect.
Absolutely, I totally agree. She doesn't have to come and do this, but she's willing to do it, and so we should show her the due respect.
What other topics? Healthcare, you mentioned that. What others do you expect?
Public schools, cutting funding to public schools. Public schools is something I'm a big supporter of. I think this is where we learn to get along with each other, a lot of diversified opinions. For me, public schools was an awesome opportunity to get myself ready for adulthood. And when we're cutting funding to public schools, and I'm on board with, if there's waste in any department, we need to get rid of it. But I don't know that necessarily getting rid of the Department of Education is the answer to that. I don't know that limiting the ability for teachers to actually teach, whether we like it or not, the truth about history has to be put out there. We can't sugarcoat it. There's some things in our nation's history that aren't pleasant. Those things need to be learned. Why do they need to be learned? Same reason that over in my father's homeland, Germany, why do they need to know about what the Nazis were and the bad and the evil that they brought, so that they in Germany don't make that same mistake again? And we need to have that same level of confidence in our own nation, that if we learn our history, we will hopefully not repeat those mistakes. So
I like it.
So,
I like it.
So
health,
sugarcoating things isn't going to help.
education. So what question?
Well, reproductive rights.
What question would you ask? What question would you ask Hageman about reproductive rights?
Well, here recently, we've had a big push by the Freedom Caucus to limit a lot of women's reproductive rights. I actually testified at a subcommittee and was ignored. I called the governor's office and asked for him to veto a couple of the bills. He vetoed one of them. It was overturned. They overrode the veto. And one of the things that I took away from the subcommittee that I testified in, one of the authors of one of the bills said that, in his opinion, he would love to see abortion outlawed nationwide, but his bill that he was proposing was trying to make it safer for women, which is absolutely, totally ludicrous. We got good doctors out there, and I trust the doctors and the woman to make the decisions on their own health care. We shouldn't be putting restrictive rights on that. I don't like the term abortion personally. I don't know any woman that's pro-abortion. I know a lot of women that are pro-choice, and I also know a lot of women that hope they never, ever, ever have to be in that position where they would have to consider an abortion. But unfortunately, due to terrible things like rape and incest or a problem with pregnancy, those are things that sometimes need to be considered, and they need to be able to get that appropriate health care. We've had stories in this nation over the last few months because of some of the laws that were passed in southern states, Texas, for example, where women basically have to almost bleed out and almost be at the doorstep of death before doctors can legally give them care. That's ridiculous. Why are we doing that? So I'm worried that the way things are going and the way states are putting restrictions on reproductive health care, that this really is, no matter how much the federal government wants to deny it, they're going for a total ban on reproductive health care. And I'm old enough to remember what it was like before Roe v. Wade and the tragedies of back alley abortions and the metaphor of the coat hanger, if you Google that and look it up. And it's a morning show. I don't want to go any deeper than that. But there are concerns. There's things we got to be concerned about. We got to be concerned about democracy. Are we going to support democracy worldwide? Ever since World War II, the United States has been pro-democracy and helping nations across this planet. Are we changing that philosophy? Are we going to abandon being the leader of the pro-democracy movement in the world? I am concerned about that. What I see going on with Ukraine is distressing. I get that it costs money to help support them, but it's a drop in the bucket of what it would cost if we actually wound up going to war with Russia or with China. It's going to be infinitely more expensive. So.
One of the thoughts I had, Klaus, if we had put 1,000 soldiers in Ukraine before Russia and Ukraine escalated the war between them,
things might have been different.
Would there have been a shot fired if there had been 1,000?
Probably not. That would have been Article 5 with NATO being invoked, and that would not have been where I believe Vladimir Putin would have wanted to go.
I don't think we would have had a shot fired. Had America unilaterally went in with 1,000 troops, I don't believe NATO as a whole organization would have had to have even been involved. If we had personally went in and did that, put 1,000 on Russia's side, put 1,000 on, had we been allowed 1,000 on Russia's side, 1,000 on Ukraine, and said
I don't think that would have happened. But I think they would have thought twice about what they did.
Don't do it, right? I just don't. I believe the value of life is really, really important, and I don't lightly put military men or women in harm's way, but I do believe that a lot of options get overlooked, and a lot of times, one of the really powerful things that I learned from PVA Laramie last night was it's easy to get overwhelmed. It's easy to find so much anxiety mount, and I think one speaker even said, "I don't know what to do."
Yeah.
And I recall what we need a lot of times is courage. We need that leadership that simplifies life. When you talk to mom or dad, a lot of times they calm you down, right? They say, hold on a second. Give this some thought.
Yep.
Take emotion out of it a little bit.
A wise man told me recently, keep your fears to yourself and show your courage. And I believe that is a true statement. And that's what parents do. Parents are scared what's going on with their kids. But they can't show their kids that. They got to be strong for their kids. And they got to show courage for their kids.
Do you let them know that?
And that's the same way.
We don't know where peanut butter is going to come from this month. We don't know where we're going to buy rice.
Don't know whether dad's going to have a job. But you can't show the kids that fear. You got to pretend like everything's going. So it is overwhelming. We got a lot of things flooding the zone right now. And it's impossible to try to counteract everyone. As a county party chair, I can't respond to everything that pops up. It's overwhelming. I can't do it, but I can respond to the things that I'm passionate about. And I would advise anybody that's
Klaus, why did you get involved with so many things, so many initiatives? Why?
Well, I apparently don't know how to say no.
There are so many people in the world. There are so many people in the world. There were 35 plus in attendance at PVA Laramie. Why did you accept so many hats and are you doing it to facilitate other people getting involved? That some of those 35 that were around you at PVA Laramie, are you getting around to challenge them to be involved
it's
as well?
Fairly simple. I love Albany County. I love Laramie. I love the community and my friends and neighbors. And I was challenged in 2018 to run for office by a dear friend of mine. And I'd never really...
Still a dear friend?
Still a dear friend.
Okay.
I like to tease the heck out of her, though. And if you all know anybody with purple hair in the Democratic Party, you know who I'm talking about. Anyhow, she told me that you should run. I think you'd be good at it. And I'm like, I don't know.
Why does somebody make that recommendation? They like you. They love you,
yeah,
right?
well,
they appreciate something you did.
Being self-employed in business, she thought I might be fiscally responsible and do a good job of being on the county commission.
They trust you.
And the sales pitch that actually sold me on it, believe it or not, was she said, if you run, nobody ever runs. If you run and you get elected and you don't like it, you can resign and the party will pick somebody to take your place. And I thought, wow, that's a heck of an offer. I got nothing to lose at this point. And so I did it.
Sounds like a trick, Klaus.
Yeah, well, I can call it what you will. So I decided to do it, and I enjoyed the process. I got to meet a lot of people, including who was going to wind up being elected Commissioner Pete Gozar at that point in time. And so I got to meet a lot of our leaders in the community and befriend them, and that bug kind of bit me. And
you got a really sage piece of advice from Pete Gozar. When you failed in election in 2022, he prevailed. You went to him and he told you something. What did he say?
Well, after the election, and of course, after my dear friend told me nobody ever runs, that was a year we had a record turnout of 12 people running for county commissioner. And I, being a relatively unknown, except for my customers, didn't make it out of the primary. So after the primary and Pete going on, I got in touch with Pete and told him that it was a pleasure to get to meet him and that I'd like to support him in his campaign. I'll put up signs, I'll put posters in my shop, I'll do whatever I can to help him out. And he said, well, thank you, Klaus. I really appreciate that. And he said, do me a favor. He said, we have very few people that have the passion that you have. Please don't give up. Please don't let this stop you.
Exactly.
Please continue. And so
beautiful.
So I kept on. I kept at it, and the more people I met, the more involved I got with the community, the more my love for this place in Wyoming grew. And so I ran again a couple more times, and then after the election in 22, I was pretty sure I wasn't going to run in 24, but I wanted to stay involved, and that's how I got involved with the PVA organization, and that's how I got involved with the executive committee. I got elected to the executive committee for the Albany County Democrats. And it's just kind of exponentially grown from there. So beside those two organizations, I'm also the vice chair of the Minority and Allies Caucus. I'd love to come back sometime when we have more time and talk about that. But we have a wonderful state. Here locally, we have a wonderful community. I don't really care what letter's behind your voter registration. You're all my friends and neighbors, and I will talk to anybody. I have no problem. Obviously, I have a big mouth and I ramble on, and I'm here today looking forward to the opportunity to stick the foot in my mouth.
Gathering for Good, tomorrow, March 19th, brings a lot of people together. What do you expect? What do you expect as a group gathering for good? Where will you assemble? Where it's 10 o'clock in the morning, a workroom at 710 Garfield Street, part of the Laramie Plains Civic Center, along 7th Street. There'll be a door access where, what are you going to do at 10 o'clock? What's your group going to be doing?
Well, David Wilhelm, who is our messaging committee lead, he will be organizing volunteers to make signs and posters starting at 10 a.m. So that the whole community doesn't need to come out at 10 a.m. and flood the workroom, which is behind the red doors on the west side of the building. And then the main grouping will gather at 4 o'clock at the courthouse. Also, a little bit after that, around 4:35, the rest of us will gather on the west side of the building in front of the red doors. And so we'll be scattered in various locations. We'll have a whole bunch of people here for a good portion of the day making posters, doing signs, working on the questions that we want to ask, forming a sense of community, reminding everybody to stay peaceful and respectful. We'll be gathering a bigger gathering at the courthouse. We may or may not have a speaker or two there. I don't know. May just be an opportunity to gather before we march over to the Civic Center. Hopefully we'll have some signs made by then. Hopefully people will bring their own homemade signs.
So 10 o'clock, it all will start with sign making and so forth?
And we'll have cookies. My wife baked 10 dozen cookies last night. I know Mayor
What
Cumbie's
flavor?
chocolate chip.
Oh, baby.
No nuts in it for anybody that's allergic. I do love nuts in my chocolate chip cookie, but we wanted to be conscientious of people that might have nut allergies. She's also making strawberry shortcake cookies today. I don't know how many dozens of those she's going to make. And Mayor Sharon Cumbie has been generous enough to also
contribute
make cookies
as well.
Yeah, I think she's making pecan sandies. So
very nice.
We will have a variety of snacks. We'll have
what happens in the afternoon?
In the afternoon, we will, like I said, be gathering at the courthouse at 4 o'clock. We may have a speaker or two there. Hopefully we'll have people with signs. People driving by can honk their horn and go, yay, I hope that works out. And about 4:30 or a little bit thereafter, that group of like-minded individuals will march from the courthouse to the Civic Center. And I want to remind everybody, if you're concerned about safety, I have spoken with Sheriff Appelhans. He will make sure that we have sheriff deputies on site at the courthouse. We may even have a few of them that will walk the group over from the courthouse over to the Civic Center. We have been in touch, specifically Mayor Cumbie with Brian Brown, our Laramie Police Chief, and we have been told that we will have 10 to 12 police officers on hand, so we will have good law enforcement presence. And I believe somebody reminded me that because Representative Hageman, being a federal elected official, she will have, I believe it is, highway patrol support. So we will have substantial law enforcement presence. If anybody's thinking about being a bad actor or character, this would not be the event.
Think again.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. I don't want you here.
Come
Nor does anybody
with
else.
organized thought. Come with the ears to listen.
You had mentioned 50 questions. That would be great. Unfortunately, we only have an hour.
That's right.
If we can get 10, 15 questions asked respectfully and answered, then we will know where Harriet Hageman stands.
I mean, let's be real. If you get 2 minutes to speak in public comment at City of Laramie City Council meeting, which, by the way, a reminder, tonight is your next City Council meeting. 9:30 this morning, your county commissioners meet in Albany County. Lots happening on Tuesdays. Tomorrow, March 19th, Gather for Good comes together and will bring a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of energy, but a lot of important issues and thoughts and concerns, and those questions we look to get answers. And if we can do that in Albany County, folks, 22 other counties can contribute to that as well. That's 23 hours in the state of Wyoming with our Congresswoman Hageman. I think that's absolutely powerfully important for all of us to be better informed. This is the Talk Shop in Studio 255 at the Laramie Plains Civic Center, brought to you in part by the Benton Rusty, 308 South 2nd Street, Perkins Restaurant and Bakery, along with the Hilton Garden Inn and Chano's Village, 513 Boswell Street in Laramie. All of it comes together with support for this program and you coming to the microphone. We'll be back with Klaus after this.
And I know you need to get going.